Hello, guys, and welcome to week 5. It is our second to last week in English 102, and we're finishing off strong with the proposal essay. So this PowerPoint is going to kind of guide you through the main um, key elements of a proposal. This is found in your Norton Field Guide in Chapter 20. If you would like to read it phrased in a different way, it always helps to read things in multiple ways to better understand it. Okay, so in thinking about what a proposal is exactly, it is an idea put forward in consideration to say, here's a solution to a problem, or this is what should be done. The reason I assign a proposal essay is because you do so many types of proposals throughout your life. There's obviously personal proposals. You think about a marriage proposal, other types of solutions to problems that happen in our personal lives, but you also do it all the time in your academic and professional lives. Every single one of us will probably at some point in our lives put forward a proposal in the form of a cover letter for a job. You're proposing that you are the person who can solve their problem of needing an employee. So it is really important to understand how to write a really good proposal, essay slash letter, and to be able to find solutions to problems. Obviously, problem solving is a huge part of our daily lives. So as far as key features go, for proposals in general, the first thing that you need to have is a well-defined problem. So you should think about what exactly is the problem that I'm trying to address here, why does it matter, who does it affect, especially focusing on already disadvantaged groups like those who are living in poverty or Black, Indigenous, people of color, or the LGBTQ plus community. Think about how does it affect these people, these communities, what would happen if we never solved this problem, and also think about the audience of your letter and how they're involved or invested in this problem. I talked about last week in the assignment sheet for this essay that you have to have a specific audience for your letter. So that specific audience needs to be involved with your problem in some way or invested in it in some way. And depending on whether or not they're someone who is behind the problem or if there's someone who can implement your solution, that'll change how exactly you're addressing this letter, writing this letter, what kind of tone you're using, and all of that. The second thing you need to have is one clear solution. So you need to describe what your solution is, how will it work, who came up with it, and define key terms or any technical jargon that we may not understand. This especially goes for topics that are really specifically about maybe your field of study. If you're looking at a topic that is very scientific, uses a lot of words that aren't necessarily understood by someone who hasn't done any research into this topic. The third thing you need is to convince your reader that your proposed solution is the best choice. So think about how will your solution be paid for? Who's going to implement it? Are there structures already in place that can be used to implement your solution? And has your solution ever been tried anywhere else, maybe outside the United States, and did it work there? If it did, then that's a pretty good indication that your solution might work in the US as well. The fourth thing that you can have, or that you should have in a proposal letter, proposal essay, is the counter argument. So you should show how the advantages of your solution outweigh any disadvantages there are, anticipate questions that the opposition might have, and think about too, have any other solutions been tried or proposed for this problem, and why are they not as effective as your solution? Fifth thing you should have is a call to action. This comes in your conclusion, and this is something I've talked about before. It's where you should tell your specific audience how they can take action to implement your solution and solve this problem. And it's trying to get them motivated to act now. This is a really good place to invoke pathos. So bringing emotions into it, making it feel like this is something that needs to be solved right now, and they have the power to do that. The last thing that you should have is an appropriate tone. I mentioned this before. You should make sure you sound informed, reasonable, and respectful. This goes into your ethos. Don't blame the audience if they are the person or one of the people responsible for this problem. You shouldn't be attacking them. That will immediately put them on the defensive and make them less likely to implement whatever solution you're looking at. And then also think about the audience is a person in a position of authority, so you shouldn't use the same tone that you would use when talking to a friend. That generally goes for any academic essay that you're writing. So as far as some steps to writing a proposal go, first thing you need to do is decide on a topic. So that's what you were working on last week, and you're deciding on your exact topic this week. For Monday. So some tips I have for deciding on your topic. You need to make sure that you choose a problem that can actually be solved. Poverty, world hunger, terrorism, none of these things are going to be solved by one simple solution. These are all systemic issues. So you should focus on a smaller problem or a limited aspect of a larger problem. So you can narrow your problem by maybe location. So if I'm looking at houselessness or homelessness, I might look at it only in Lexington. And that's narrowing it down, making it easier for me to actually come up with a solution that will solve this problem. You can narrow it down by age. So instead of looking at childhood obesity in general, or obesity in general, you can look at specifically childhood obesity in America. That narrows it down not only to America, but also just children. You can also think about different types of things. So all pollution in general, you're not going to find a solution that can solve the problem of all pollution in the world. There's too many different types, and they all require different solutions. So you can narrow it by type and say, I'm only going to be proposing a solution to fashion industry pollution. And you can also narrow it down by disadvantaged communities. So specifically how this problem affects LGBTQ plus communities or Black, Indigenous, people of color communities, and a solution that specifically works to combat this problem for those communities only. Second thing that you should do is consider the rhetorical situation. So think about purpose. What stake do you have in this particular solution and this problem? How can you prove it's the best one? The purpose of you writing this essay or this letter is to propose that your solution is the best one. You should be arguing for that. Think about audience as well. Does your audience for your letter share your view of the problem as a serious one that needs a solution? Are they going to be open to different solutions or resistant? And do they have the authority to carry out a proposed solution? Remember that you need to have specific audiences or a specific audience in mind. You're writing this letter, dear so-and-so. That is addressed to a specific person. So it might be the CEO of a company. I mentioned on, I think, the assignment sheet, if I were trying to solve the problem of plastic bag pollution, I might write to the CEO of Kroger. It might be a specific politician. In somewhere in this week's stuff, I talk about Andy Beshear. If I were writing about a Kentucky statewide problem, I might write to him as the governor. It might be an activist or community organizer, the leader of an involved organization. If I were talking about police brutality in Kentucky, I might specifically write to the chief of police in Louisville. You should also be thinking about stance I've mentioned. You need to show your audience that your proposal is reasonable and it should be taken seriously. You're thinking about your own ethos, so your own authority and credibility. You show this through word choice and a serious and credible tone in your essay. You also show this through your research. You need to have credible research that shows that you have looked at this topic deeply and really understand what it's talking about. And by addressing the counter argument, that also gives you credibility by saying, I understand exactly what the other solutions available are, or I understand what the opposition says, but here's what I say. And then the last thing is media and design. So you're thinking about a business letter is your design, quote unquote, for this essay. So how can you take advantage of the medium of a business letter to be more convincing? This essay, unlike other academic essays, allows you to directly talk to the audience. So how can you use that to be more convincing and kind of argue more effectively? Last thing is to generate ideas in text. It sounds so easy when you put it that way, doesn't it? So within that, you should be exploring potential solutions before you come up with your one best solution. So you should show that your reader that you've looked at several potential solutions. Maybe how have other people solved similar problems? Has anyone in a different location tried to solve your problem? I mentioned this with looking outside the US and applying that to the United States. You should decide on the best solution after exploring those potential solutions. It might involve combining two different solutions or coming up with a completely new one. And then think about why your solution is the best one. So why did you choose your solution? Why will it work better than others? What has to be done to enact it? And what will it cost? What makes you think that this is reasonable and that it can actually be done? Okay, so that is the introduction to your proposals that you can get working on. This week's assignments based on this, and then you can move on to the how to read scholarly articles PowerPoint and accompanying lecture.